I think that's the important thing to remember about cryptocurrency. I don't even like calling it cryptocurrency because it's more of just a crypto stock. That's what it really is. Because when you buy a cryptocurrency, it's not like you actually use it to buy everyday things. Using the name cryptocurrency to describe more of just a stock in a way, because that's really what it is. It's a decentralized stock that, a bunch of people throw money into, and it's all speculative at this point. It's not creating any value, but it does have some good use cases for security and also for your identity in that way.
And I'm also going to be honest with you about what we don't know as well, because before we move further, let me say loud and clear. As of right now, no one knows the true culprit for this crash.
AiA episode 33. Terra Coin, otherwise known as Luna, has basically become a worthless cryptocurrency. Now, before we get into the show, I kind of wanted to just give a brief overview of my thoughts going into crypto, just before we jump into this video. This video will be more or less a rant on the show about cryptocurrency in general, but I'm gonna try not to go too hard on it. But anyways, Luna coin was basically a very popular cryptocurrency. It was actually a top 10 cryptocurrency on Coinbase and was actually trading in under 2 weeks ago at about $87. And within 2 weeks, it has fell to a fraction of a penny, basically worthless at this point. And now will actually be delisted from Coinbase and not traded anymore by May 27th of 2022. So in 10 days at the time of recording this, there will be no more Luna coin listed on Coinbase, and that will be it of it. But anyways, it lost over $15 billion, was wiped of this cryptocurrency in the span of a couple of days, I believe, and basically now is worthless. A lot of people thought that, maybe it would return one day. We don't exactly know, but at least from what I was hearing a week ago, that it could very well return in value, but that doesn't seem to be the case from what I see so far. And I think this is just the nail in the coffin after a couple days ago of Coinbase announcing this. And an important thing to remember is that it was worth $116 just in April. Just a month ago, it was trading over $100. But now it has, collapsed. And what we'll basically be doing today is also be watching a CoffeeZilla video on how Luna collapsed, which, I would really recommend checking out CoffeeZilla. He definitely puts out really good videos and, definitely worth a watch. I am a fan of his. But I guess I wanted to give my thoughts on crypto kind of before we kind of jump into the CoffeeZilla video, and then I share my thoughts on it. And this is basically it for my thoughts of crypto. I feel that I don't think it'll ever actually become a currency we use to actually buy things. And the reason that is that it's never stable. Look at the most popular cryptocurrency. Let's just look at Bitcoin, for instance. And if we look at Bitcoin and let's just go the past month, let's see if it can be stable over a month. That's not stable at all. You could see at the start of this, it was 38,000 and now it is about 28,000. So that's a $10,000 discrepancy in just the span of a month. And, even let's just go as far as a year. We have it trading at the beginning of the year. Oh, it's actually quite even, about 40,000 to about, 29,000. But we also have this large gap here of 66,000. And then, within literally 7 months, it, completely halves itself. And I think that's the important thing to remember about cryptocurrency. I don't even like calling it cryptocurrency because it's more of just a crypto stock. That's what it really is. Because when you buy a cryptocurrency, it's not like you actually use it to buy everyday things. We still don't do that. Do you use cryptocurrency for like online purchases that are kind of fringe in that way? Yes, you do. And also to stay unprotected or kind of undetected, and also for security reasons to hide your identity. there's all those other use cases for it. But to actually become a standard form of currency that we use in our day-to-day lives, I don't think that cryptocurrency is ever going to become a thing for that, because for one, it's just not stable like that. Like, that's the thing. If it would just stabilize in price, and I'm just talking about over an extended period of time, let's just say a year, if Bitcoin could level out at $30,000 and it could stay at $30,000 or just around $30,000 for a year, I think at that point, Bitcoin would have a much better overall case for actually using it in day-to-day life if it could level out at some value or another. But, and that's just looking at the most popular one. Let's just like pick a random one, this, whatever this is. And you can look at, 1 year. Again, it's, not, it's not stable whatsoever. And again, that's not bad at all, being volatile. It's just that using the name cryptocurrency to describe more of just a stock in a way, because that's really what it is. It's a decentralized stock that, a bunch of people throw money into, and it's all speculative at this point. It's not creating any value, but it does have some good use cases for security and also for your identity in that way. But at the end of the day, to me, and I also want to disclaim this is not like personal finance advice. I'm just giving you my opinion on this. I would say for me, it's not like the safest investment. Now, is it a good investment? Well, you tell me. For the people who bought Bitcoin a couple years ago and then it rose to 60 something thousand, 7-8 months ago, and then they sold at that point, yeah, I think they made out pretty well. But if you were to buy it at 50, 60,000 and now it's under 30,000 now, then you're probably not doing so good. So if you like risky investments, of course, Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency would be a, I guess good investment, sort of for a high risk, high reward type of thing. But even with Bitcoin, there are those success stories of people buying it at, like a couple $100 and then selling it for thousands. There's always going to be those success stories. But there's also going to be these stories like this, the unfortunate ones that buy a up and coming, cryptocurrency of Terra coin or whatever, and it looks like it was consistently going up. It had a dip here, but again, it looks like it was consistently going up, and all of a sudden, within a couple days, it's worthless, and it will never have value again. Obviously, with Coinbase doing what it's going to do and not trade it anymore, it's literally not going to be worth anything in 10 days after that happens. But again, this is why cryptocurrency is such a risky investment. Personally, I don't have any investments whatsoever in cryptocurrency. A lot of people will say that that's a terrible decision. Some people will say that's a good decision. I just find it more of a safer position because at the end of the day, it's very risky, and when you invest money, you have to be willing to lose it, just like the people who invested in TerraCoin and now literally lost everything. Normally when you make an investment and the price goes down on it, you might lose like 30%, 40%, 50%, maybe like 67, 70% at most, even in like the worst investments, but still losing 99.99%, basically everything, is pretty terrible. But anyways, I wanted to look at the CoffeeZilla video now and, kind of hear what happened, history of it, and we'll commentate over it and, see what happens after that. So yeah, let's get into it.
It's hard to believe that only a week ago, Luna was one of the top cryptocurrencies with billions of dollars flowing into it, and all it took was one market downturn to turn this golden token into digital toilet paper. I mean, in 1 week, Luna has gone from $80 a token to less than $1. This chart is just hard to look at, I'm warning you. It reminds me of BitConnect. Not to mention, UST, their stablecoin, is still depegged. And at this point, I think it's safe to say it's over for Terraform Labs. There's simply no way to reestablish the trust that algorithmic stablecoins need. I mean, after all, who wants an unstable stablecoin? So Today, we're going to try to explain what happened and tell the story of why I think this collapse was predictable. By that I mean it was literally predicted. There was a $20 million bet about this. And I'm also going to be honest with you about what we don't know as well. Because before we move further, let me say loud and clear. As of right now, no one knows the true culprit for this crash. So far, I've counted 4 different and unique threads going viral, all claiming to know how Luna collapsed, and the explanation is slightly different each time. But what is consistent is their proof is, trust me, bro. In fact, my personal favorite of these explanations is the theory that
I think it's also like really important to remember. I kind of just thought about this as like, trust in cryptocurrency, I think from the public is not very high. I think that's very like I think that's easy to say. I think that that's a safe statement to make, that it is not, the trust is not high in the public. And the reason that is because cryptocurrency itself is decentralized and basically deregulated. So, if you don't have any trust from the broad, public or community, then this sort of thing to a really popular cryptocurrency is just going to hurt the public perception even more. When, a couple of years ago, I would have said cryptocurrency is totally a scam. Now, I obviously would say it's legitimate form of investment, but just know that you could lose everything in the span of like one night, which that's what the people invested in Lunacoin did. But I think that's very important to remember. I think we are going to see a much bigger decline in cryptocurrencies in the next couple of months, maybe even the rest of this year, just because I do not feel like this happening to a very popular top 10 cryptocurrency on Coinbase is going to help in any way for people to invest more into crypto. I think this is going to have the negative effect of just people selling off crypto and kind of not wanting to touch it. So I don't know, maybe it's a good idea to buy the dip in crypto this year and hopefully it'll go up next year. But I don't know, at least that's kind of my thoughts from sort of like deterministic standpoint of, this happened here, so therefore this should happen.
Citadel, who's the GameStop supervillain, secretly gotten a 100,000 Bitcoin loan from Gemini, which is owned by the Winkle twins, and they destroyed Luna with it. Now, Gemini denied these claims, but who are you going to believe? A private company or an anonymous 4chan post? Kind of a toss-up, right? And I'm not even saying these are wrong. They just don't have any evidence. So that's where it stands with this forensic side of things. A lot of people claim to have solved it, but nobody seems to actually have done so. But while we don't know exactly what happened, I think it's important to say this crash also didn't surprise anyone. And I think that's worth talking about. There were a lot of people who have been calling for this for some time, and these were mostly for 2 reasons, which we've already discussed. UST was built on a Ponzi scheme, and algo stablecoins have sort of always failed, and we've covered those. But there's a third option that I really think has been overlooked in all this, and that is Do Kwon's role. Remember that Do Kwon is the creator of Terraform Labs. And what most people don't know is that as Luna became more and more successful, Do Kwon slowly became more and more arrogant. He would dismiss all his critics and call them poor. And I believe this played a role, at least, in so many people rooting for Luna's downfall, if not actively playing a role in it. As I said, we don't know if Luna's demise was like an attack or naturally occurring, but I want to give you some examples of this because I think we can learn from it about sort of what not to do if you suddenly happen to become ultra rich and powerful. So on November 25th, 2021, a guy named Freddie Reynolds proposed a theory of how you could crash Luna with a Soros-style Black Wednesday attack. By that, he's referring to when George Soros broke the British pound. And he goes into great detail about how you could do this if you just had $1 billion on hand. He described a process where you could make $50 million and sort of rinse and repeat it until Luna falls apart. Now, in response to this possible attack vector, does Luna investigate? Does it implement strategies to defend itself? No. Instead, Do Kwon says this: probably the most thread I've read this decade. Silence is a perfectly acceptable option if stupid. And then basically he asks sort of to be attacked. He says, billionaires in my following, go ahead. see what happens. I mean, can you imagine the arrogance to taunt billionaires that are following you and going like, yeah, see what happens. Go ahead, attack me, see what happens. No.
Yeah, I think that, man, for the owner of a cryptocurrency or a labs, the Terraform Labs, is just can't be done. I mean, when you own that big of a business or anything like that, you have to be so corporate safe on Twitter and all social media, and just that little, I mean, that wasn't little at all, but I mean, man, those comments just can't be made because geez, one little thing you say could totally tank your currency or stock or company or whatever. And, I hate to say, oh, you have to watch out for the cancel culture, but you have to be very corporate safe when you're dealing with, that sort of wealth and that sort of power behind you, because any little thing you say could tip the scale in completely not your favor. And, again, I'm never going to be a multi-billionaire one day, probably not. But again, I would think that I would be a little bit smarter than that to not sort of be that arrogant on social media. I would hope so. I mean, that's really why I don't even have like traditional social media like a Twitter or Facebook or an Instagram or whatever. I just don't use them because, again, I guess kind of arrogance comes from that, kind of second decision making sort of. But yeah, I mean, again, terrible.
Now, look, I know the internet's kind of a wild place, but I usually think there are two rules to it that you have to abide by at all times. One, don't ever taunt the internet. And two, don't ever taunt billionaires. And you certainly don't want to do both at the same time. But this kind of arrogant response wasn't even an irregular occurrence. Rather than engaging with flaws in his protocol, Do Kwon would repeatedly call his critics poor. In fact, a few days before Luna collapsed, Do Kwon said that if you listen to crypto influencers about UST pegging for the 69th time, or you could remember that they're all poor now and go for a run.
Yeah, I think that is some good advice if you are really anyone. Calling people poor is just asking to be attacked. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Instead, and he repeatedly did this. He also taunted this guy, Algod Trading, who said, if Luna breaks new all-time highs, I will short it with size. And Do Kwon responds, yeah, but your size is not size. This guy responds, statistically, you're dunking on 99% of your community, but all right, someday your Ponzi will collapse. You can't keep fueling Anchor. And this is my favorite part of the story because that same guy then responds 4 days later, offering a $1 million bet that Luna will be at a lower price in exactly 1 year. Now, what does Do Kwon do? He takes it. Of course, he takes the bait. He says, cool, I'm in. And I guess that got enough attention because someone noticed it and decided that they actually wanted to raise the stakes. GCR on Twitter decides to offer a $10 million bet. Do Kwon once again agrees, and they decide on the escrow being another crypto Twitter user, Kobe. And so right now at this address, which we will put on screen, there's currently a $10 million bet going on the blockchain. This is real money we're talking about. Literally just put up to see if Luna's going to fall or not, which obviously 2 months later it did. But even that wasn't enough for GCR, who at the time decides he wants to double the bet, saying the initial spirit of it was this like, yeah, your size is not size, whatever, like kind of a weird insult. Weird way to say you're poor, basically. And so he says, look, we're going to play for big money. I'll double it to $20 million, to which Do Kwon doesn't respond. And so instead, what this guy does is he decides he's going to short Luna with the remaining $10 million that he wanted to bet him with. Now, for those of you following along at home, this is what we call a Chad move. This guy would end up cashing out with $16 to $20 million profit, and it shows how much Do Kwon pissed everyone off, not just the, quote, poor people, but actually the richest part of crypto Twitter. Remember, he literally asked billionaires to attack his protocol. And to make it even worse, he also began attacking other competitors around this time. saying about stablecoins like DAI, by my hand, DAI will die. And it was sort of this unique combination of arrogance, antagonism, and disregard for criticism that contributed either directly or indirectly to Luna's collapse. People don't like a sore winner, and it's fair to say that Do Kwon had to learn that lesson the hard way. My point with sharing this isn't to suggest that the only reason Luna collapsed is because this guy is kind of a jerk. Because remember, they were basically running a Ponzi scheme. But being a jerk, along with sort of running and benefiting from a Ponzi scheme, definitely doesn't help. And the other bit of news we learned in all of this is that CoinDesk reported that Do Kwon was secretly behind a failed stablecoin in the past called Basis Cash. He turned out to be anonymously involved, going by the pseudonym Rick, and his partner was called Morty. According to CoinDesk, he modeled the project after an earlier project called Basis, which you may or may not remember as the failed project of founder Nader Al-Naji, the creator of BitClout. So that's where we are with this story. A lot has come out, and while I hold very little sympathy for Do Kwon's failure, I do feel bad for all the traders who got swept up in it. For example, KSI claimed to have bought 100,000 Luna, claiming it could be the, quote,
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to mention this. Yeah, KSI, I think he lost, in total, it was like, I think 10 million or something like that. It was something along those lines. I don't exactly know how much money he lost, but I know he lost millions, because he did buy a good amount of Luna, and then it became, obviously worthless. I can't exactly remember how much he bought, but it was something in that nature of, I'll actually Google it right now. KSI. Yeah, KSI loses millions. I watched that PKA Luna crypto. Let's see. Oh shit. Second. 3 million. That's how much he lost. Okay, so 2.8, 3 million. That's what we're getting right now. So yeah, KSI lost about 3 million in crypto, which again sucks, but I mean, he's already rich, so it's, I can't feel too bad. I don't really feel bad when very rich people lose money, because it's like, if you're very rich and you lose a couple million, you're still fine. He's still gonna eat, he still has a house, he still has other investments, but still, it sucks at the end of the day.
best or worst trade of my life. He later says he spent $2.8 million buying the dip, and that his Luna was now worth $1,000. Ouch. And that's not even to mention the regular investors who don't have millions to spare. I mean, I cannot stress this enough. Billions of dollars have been wiped out overnight. Like, Reddit communities are being makeshifted from supporters into support groups. Like, I don't want to show you guys too much of this because it is dark. Some investors.
I also heard that on PK as well. I watched pretty much the entire episode with Wendigoon. It was a really good PK episode. It was a PK 595, I'm sure. But they talked about the Reddit communities around Luna and how sad they got. And I actually went on Luna, the r/Luna Reddit or r/Terra Labs Reddit, and it was very sad, especially because these are just everyday people investing their money into, cryptocurrencies, trying to, make good investments, but inevitably they, just lost a lot of money or lost all of their money. And, that's, again, very sad to see. But at the end of the day, whatever you invest, you have to be willing to lose. And, that's why I don't invest every dollar I have. I think that is a recipe for disaster in certain cases, but you always got to have a little bit of money to fall back on, and investing everything, especially investing everything into one thing, that too is a terrible practice while investing. But still, I was reading on the Reddit, and it was incredibly sad. I'm assuming this says suicide right here. Damn, I shouldn't have said that word. You can't say that word in YouTube. Why, damn, I said it. But yeah, this word right here, the S word, I saw a lot of those on the Reddit of the subreddit of Luna, but again, I don't exactly know how true they are. But still, if I lose, tens of thousands of dollars of investment, I would consider that. But I don't know. That's pretty far.
Work groups. Like, I don't want to show you guys too much of this because it is dark. Some investors lost houses, others lost life savings, and that's truly sad. But we can't forget about the painful lessons things like Luna can teach us. In this case, it's sort of three things. Don't taunt internet billionaires, don't build Ponzi schemes, and beware algo stablecoins. That's
And probably don't invest everything you have into one thing, because if that thing fails, you lose everything.
basically it. Pump the stock, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, that was it with CoffeeZilla. Give him a like, and I'll also be again linking that video in the description down below, just in case anyone wants to watch it or check out CoffeeZilla, which he has a great channel, by the way. Highly recommend his channel and his content. But anyways, that's about it for this episode. A little bit of a shorter episode today. Not really much to say. I kind of give my thoughts on, cryptocurrency as a whole and why I'm not really invested in it. But at the end of the day, you can make your investments how you want to make them. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so take everything I said with not just a grain of salt, with a salt shaker of salt, because again, not a financial advisor. You make your investments how you want to make them. But again, probably don't invest everything you have into one thing, because that doesn't look like that will really work out in case something drastic happens. But anyways, that's about it for this video. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and until next time, see you.